Good evening, everyone. My name is Leanne Kruger-Branicki, and I'm here to introduce the main speaker this evening, Sarah von Aken from Sava. I first met Sarah back in 2009 when she had first opened her apparel company and had the opportunity to spend lots of time with Sarah over the years. And a couple of years ago, when I was running the Sustainable Business Network of Greater Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Inquirer was running a story about our 10th anniversary. And I got a phone call from the reporter, and she said, "Hey, who's your favorite local independent business? We want to do a photo op, and we'd love to photograph you there." And so I gave the diplomatic answer for someone who was running a network of hundreds of local independent businesses. And I said, well, I don't have a favorite, but I can think of one that would be great for this opportunity. And I called Sarah. And a year later, I got a call from the White House. And they said, the chair of the Council on Environmental Quality is coming to Philadelphia, and she would like to sit down for a roundtable with a number of women-owned businesses who are committed to environmental responsibility. Who should we talk to? And again, I said, oh, I can think of the person. And again, I called Sarah. And so Sarah's work at Sava, her mission is to grow an apparel company that's the most socially responsible apparel company in the country. And maybe we don't think very often about the responsibility of the things that we wear, but 200 million people are enslaved in the apparel industry right now. And that's true of many of the major brands that we wear. We don't think about who's making our clothes. We don't think about what kind of materials are going into the clothing that we wear. But Sarah does. And so when you purchase a garment from Sava, you're purchasing a dress or a coat or a sweater that was made here in Philadelphia. After having a manufacturing facility in Bangladesh, Sarah realized that the right thing to do, the most responsible thing to do, was to move her manufacturing from overseas right here to Philadelphia, where she opened a center that employed women, low-income women, mainly to make these garments. The apparel industry is also one of the largest polluting industries in the country, in the world, actually. And Sarah, in her garments at Sava, is very careful about what kind of materials she uses. And when you buy a Sava garment, there's a tag, and there's little check boxes, and it will say locally made, organic, fair trade. And so you know exactly what you're putting on your body. And Sava is a locally owned business. And that means that when you shop at a local business, about 3 times as much of your money recirculates in our local economy. And that's because Sarah's employing local workers and using a local accountant and a local marketing agency. And so she's got a deep impact on the local economy. And so there's lots of things about Sarah's company that I think we can hold up as a role model for others. But the piece that I think is most important tonight is her fierceness and her vulnerability. I had a chance to preview her remarks, and I really appreciate the spirit of honesty that she's coming to you with, because being a woman entrepreneur is hard. This work is not easy, and she's coming and sharing her full self with you, not just the shiny piece that you shine up when you're off to talk to investors or to bankers. She's going to talk about her full experience as a woman-owned business.
Is this working? Can you hear me? You can hear me? Okay, great. Thanks so much for having me here tonight. Thank you to Leanne for the warm introduction, and Roseanne for your inspiring work. It's certainly a motivation for an entrepreneur like me in my first business. I was especially excited when I was asked to speak here tonight because I thought, wow, talking to a room full of entrepreneurs, they will get it. Even better, a room full of women entrepreneurs, they will know. To be an entrepreneur, you have to live full out, and there is no halfway about it. And so I just want to recognize everyone who's here tonight and everything that you do. So congratulate yourselves. Often when I'm asked to speak, I speak to all sorts of different organizations, and I often just tell my story. I talk about my dream of becoming a fashion designer. I talk about the 3 award-winning fashion brands that I launched, about a factory in Bangladesh and reshoring manufacturing to Philadelphia and raising money and everything that's happened. But tonight I wanted to talk about failure, the F word, the word that all of us entrepreneurs spend so much time avoiding. And don't worry, it won't be too much of a downer. I'll try to keep it upbeat. I really actually want to talk about greatness in failure. So, you see, I am nothing if not transparent. And right now, I am standing on the precipice of an epic failure. It was 2 weeks ago that our board voted that we were going to wind down operations by the end of the year. That was their choice. That the cash needs of the business couldn't be met, that they shouldn't be met. And I could tell you about all the little details. I could tell you about how our wholesale expansion didn't go quite right, that our sales weren't met, and I could tell you about the difficulty in the expense structure of having a vertical apparel business. I could also tell you about the irony that our store sales have been up 25 to 70% every month for the last 7 months, or how my balance sheet looks so much better now that we paid off that debt, or about the thousands of women that love and are loyal to the Sava brand. But what I actually want to talk about is how I'm feeling and what I'm going to do about it. So, I am on the precipice of an epic failure, but I have been here before. And, you know, there was the time that we just launched Sava and we were over budget and it ate up the little bit of working capital that I had planned for, or there was the time I almost didn't get the line of credit that was going to cover cash flow, and I had no idea how I was going to make payroll, or the many times that I didn't know how I was going to make payroll. Or there was the time that the strategic partnership with the large corporation that was going to transform my business and change our growth plan fell through at the last minute, and I had to change plans. So I've been on this precipice many times before. Each and every time until now, it pretty much felt like I can't breathe, like someone just kicked me in the stomach and I can't breathe. But the thing about a precipice is that there's just as much chance of being safe as there is of danger. And the thing about entrepreneurship is that the risk of failure is equal to the possibility of success. So this time is different. And sure, I'm more confident in my ability to navigate sticky situations, and I'm more confident in my talent, and I know that I gave it my all. But this time feels different. I'm calm, I'm centered, I'm clear. I'm clear about what I'm good at. I'm clear about how to navigate through this. And so I really spent some time looking back over the last 2 weeks in what I was going to say to all of these people who came here to hear me talk about entrepreneurship in the middle of this crisis. And how could I be so calm and so centered that I could stand here tonight and still breathe and not just put a fake smile on my face and tell you a story? What made me willing and inspired to talk about why it is I feel so calm and centered in this failure. So don't get me wrong, this all came as a big shock. It was on the heels of our lead investor who was committed to putting more money in, and so it was really shocking, and I did what anybody would do. I spent an entire weekend watching Orange is the New Black and every episode of House of Cards back to back. Thank you, Netflix, for that 11-second repeat, or the automatic start of the next episode. And if I'm being really honest, I also watched every episode of Scandal. So if there's any way that you need to feel better about your life, just look at what is happening to Olivia Pope. Because she's got it much worse than I do, let me tell you. I hear she's surrounded by murderers this week. But anyway, when that shock was over, when the weekend was over, I picked myself up and I had this calmness and this clarity. And I started to look at what it is I know about failure. So there's 3 things I want to tell you that I know about failure. My business, which I have largely bootstrapped, has constantly been on the brink of ultimate success and ultimate failure. Every time I've navigated it, I've persevered. And it reminded me of a story that I heard. I was at a conference and heard the CEO of Van City Credit Union from Vancouver speak. And they had just transformed a large portion of their investments to invest directly in local businesses, in entrepreneurs. So of course, like the loan officers are like, what? I don't know how to loan to those people. Like it's not, this is your collateral, this is what it wasn't standard. So as he was training his loan officers to invest in entrepreneurs, he said, you really need to be able to assess whether the person sitting across the table from you is someone that you can go through a hard time with. Because I can assure you that the one thing that's not going to happen is what they wrote in their business plan. And so I realized that this is not unique to me. This change of plans, this thing that I planned that didn't happen, I'm not the first person that has stood here. And if you look at the true meaning of failure, you boil it down, if you can get out of your own way and you can get out of your own head and you cannot get attached to the story you tell yourself about its causes and its effects, all failure really is a change of plans. So I'm changing plans. So the second thing I know about failure is that it's opportunity. I would actually even go so far as to say it's possibility. Entrepreneurship has been a life journey for me. I imagine that there's people out there who have this great idea of something missing in the market. They have a strategy, they have the experience, and they have the capital, and they go out and start a great business. I had none of these things. I had a calling. I had a fire in my eye about becoming a fashion designer. I was pretty naive. Though certainly I felt that there was a space in the market that I had a great idea. I can look back on that woman that I was a little over 6 years ago and see that she was driven by ego. I wanted to prove that I could do it. I didn't work for Vogue. I didn't study under one of the great designers. I had a degree in fine art and made my own clothes and had some apparel sourcing, but there wasn't a straight path for me. And I wanted to be great. I wanted to be acknowledged for my creativity. I wanted to see my clothing in magazines. And that was my idea of greatness then. So fast forward to 2008, I have a men's custom shirt brand, a custom uniform business in a factory in Bangladesh, and no longer was being recognized enough for me. I needed to be inspired to continue by something greater than myself. So I transformed my business into a socially driven fashion brand and launched Sava. I created an innovative vertical business model that small startups and large corporations like Eileen Fisher are replicating today. I wanted to create jobs. I wanted to do it different. I wanted to use responsibly sourced textiles and have community partnerships. So my idea of greatness was transformed into a social mission, and I built a brand on those values. And I had buy-in into that brand from the press, from the industry, from customers, and eventually my employees. So there have been 2 times that I've had to lay off people in my business. Once was a year and a half ago until we raised money. And I was sick to my stomach. It was probably one of the hardest things that I had to do. I met with each of the employees, and in the most sensitive way I knew how, I told them that we could no longer afford to keep them on, that we were raising money and I might have a job here soon, but that I couldn't right now keep them on. And they were angry. They were all angry with me, and it was terrible. And sure, it's not so great to lose your job, but that's not why they were upset with me. Why didn't you tell us? They were upset with me because there was a loss of integrity there. They were upset with me because I didn't honor them in some way, that I had missed the boat on that. And I fortunately was able, because I had built a brand on these values and I had the guideposts, I was able to see this for the opportunity that it was, and it gave me a chance to, as we grew, transform my company and my relationship with my employees and really create true brand integrity. They had no idea that I hadn't gotten paid for weeks so I could keep them working, and they had no idea the financial risks I was taking to keep their job, and that had to change. So the second time I had to lay people off was 2 weeks ago, and the reaction was very different. I was equally as sick to my stomach, though, I will say. It is not a nice thing to have to do. But when I told the first employee, she said to me, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. That must be so hard for you. Are you okay?" "Am I okay? I just told you I didn't have a job for you right now." And she asked me if I was okay. So there's great opportunity in our failures. When I started my business, my idea of success, I already told you I was naive, right? Because I really didn't have any capital when I started this. My idea of success would be when Savah became a $100 million fashion brand. There was nothing in between. So all the sales, all the customers who told me they loved the clothes, the press features, all of that, I didn't really recognize that as success. But as I transformed and I grew along with my business, and as my emotional intelligence deepened at least a little bit, as I was touched by the people that I worked with, both inside and outside of my company, it was no longer limited to the exact vision that I held in my head. As my idea of greatness transformed, I began to judge myself by the integrity I approached every situation with. And I don't just mean the definition of integrity that says be honest and fair, because I think that everybody should be honest and fair. But I mean the part of the definition that says integrity is the state of being complete or whole. So success, what we think of as the opposite of failure, should be defined by greatness. And greatness should be achieved through integrity. So I'll give you an example of that. As you might imagine, I've had a crazy couple of weeks, and it's been a little intense, and I have investors. Most of them were actively engaged, but I had to make a few tough phone calls, and one of my investors in particular, although understanding because he's a businessman, at our investor meeting was a little bit upset and said some harsh things, and I didn't get an opportunity to talk to him after that meeting, and it didn't sit well with me. And everything was on the table. We were moving according to plan to figure out what scenarios could change the situation, but it didn't sit well with me. And I knew that I had to run toward what was hard. That no matter how he felt or what I was going to have to take in facing it, I had to run towards it. So I asked him to have a drink with me. I got there early. I ordered scotch. It seemed appropriate. And when we sat down, he's like, "How are you? What are you doing?" He gave me the best pep talk I've ever had, and he told me about his failure. And he said to me, "Why did you even want to meet? What's going on?" And I said, "Well, you were upset. This is the right thing to do." And he said, "You see, that just shows that the values you built your business on, you really stand true." And I hadn't really thought of that before. I did it because I thought that I needed to do it. And I don't want to be all doom and gloom. Greatness happens in the good moments too, right? About a week and a half ago, and I'm fortunate enough to have this happen frequently, but this one in particular stuck with me. A week and a half ago, I had a meeting, and I showed up to the meeting, and it was a group full of women. And a woman I didn't know was wearing head-to-toe Savah, dress, scarf, earrings, sweater, the whole thing. And I said, "Wow, you look really great in that dress." I didn't know she knew me. And she started gushing, and she said, "Oh my God, I live in this dress." She's like, "Do you know about this store? They make everything here in Philadelphia. My mom shops there, my sister shops there, my whole thing. I just got my friend a gift card there." And I was like, wow. I was like, if my work can make this woman feel so great about how she looks and a purchase she bought, then a really messed up cat table and a really bad overhead structure and all of that doesn't matter, because of the thousands of women that love and are loyal to the Savah brand, they can't be wrong. And that to me is greatness. So, as I stand here tonight, I am on the precipice of an epic failure. And here's what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to recognize it for the change of plans that it is. And I'm going to seize the opportunity to take what is great in it, what I do well, what is of value, and transform it into something that works. And that's what entrepreneurship is. The truth is that it doesn't matter what my board says, because a conversation with a QVC or an HSN or one of the other people we're having, you don't know. And it's really not over until I say that it's over. So don't be so scared of failure, because sometimes it's the greatest change of plans. Thank you.